Freshitarians, what's up? It's another episode this week. It's been another week already. It's Tuesday today, right? We're super excited. I have lots of guests here today. So before we even get started, just let's go around and everybody introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Okay. I am Trina Williams, owner and operator of Fresh Wind Catering.
Awesome.
Dr. Alexis Smith, co-medical director of Joni Abdu Comprehensive Breast Care Center.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Pat Kerrigan, director of the Oak Hill Collaborative.
And Debbie Larson, founder, interviewer of Youngstown Click.
Right, friend, right?
Friend, yes.
Good,
All around
good
amazing
people.
person.
So, this is actually, again, this is kind of on the fly here, how we kind of roll. But Trina, we wanted to get you on last week. First of all, as a friend, I mean, you got some really big news going on right now. I know I follow you on Facebook. We've been friends for about 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first time we met, we were on TV together.
Right,
it was the first time we met.
Right.
And I knew about you before that. I knew you were doing some roles and this, that, and the other with Fresh Wind Catering. But we became friends at the incubator, and I've been following you. So why don't you share a little bit about what you got going on in this big event and this big reveal that you have going on? Because it blows my mind.
Well,
It's amazing.
Now, it's blowing my mind.
God's so good.
I
God's so good.
was kind of scared to come on the show because I was like, I'm going to cry the
It's
whole
all right.
show.
Aw.
Listen, today was the day I hit $20,000. I'm doing a campaign. It's called the Honeycomb Credit Investment. And what it does is it invests money into a business to help you get your business. It's crowdfunding. So I've made it to that $20,000 mark in 20 days,
20 days.
which is amazing.
Wow.
And what are you going to get out of it?
I'm going to get a food truck.
Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
And who's going to be your first customer?
We spoke this. Me and her spoke this
Yeah.
years ago. She's like, you get the food truck, you're going to come to my house and do my son's party, which I do all her parties already. But yeah, pulling up with a truck is all it's going to be amazing.
You know what happened was that somebody came up to a friend's house with a food truck, it's like giving ice creams out to the kids or something. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then she came over with her food and it's just so good. And one time we were there and I was like, you need to get a food truck. I thought it was kind of like a joke, but it's become something now. It's amazing.
Right. It's funny how we speak things right into existence, not even knowing.
And she
Right?
is
Just
the
an
most
idea,
deserving
right?
person.
Right? Again,
Yeah.
we were talking about it a little bit too, because where you're at today is not maybe where you were always at in your life, and you've come through some things, and you've grown through some things.
Definitely.
You've even grown. I mean, even the last couple of years since we've been friends,
For sure.
I know that you've gone and went through different changes and different jobs, and really trying to find your path, your journey. But maybe you want to share a little bit about some of your past and even how you got here and what God's all done in your life.
Well, how I got here is Pat Kerrigan. I had a little help from a couple of friends, but I went to his office one day looking for my friend Dion Dowdy. She's the operator and director of URC. So I was looking for her. Pat come outside, which I always tell people, Pat came outside being nosy. It's a joke because Pat will make sure he come out, see who in his parking lot. So he came out and asked me, how am I and what was I looking for? And I told him I was looking for Dion. He said she wasn't there today. She was off. And he said, well, what do you do? And I told him that, I sell cars. I work for challenged students with disabilities, and that I work at the bar selling food. So he was like, well, what kind of food? I told him I specialize in egg rolls. And he said, well, why don't you bring some food by one day? So it wasn't the next day, but I think it was the day after. I came by, brought some egg rolls, some fried green tomatoes. And Pat looked over at Rebecca Zolden and he told her, he said, get her a business page and get her some business cards. And I wasn't even thinking about a catering business at the time. It was just really something to do, a hobby, and then it just turned into even more. I started going into Fresh Wind. I got my LLC through Kristen Omi, and it's just took off. It's been a Fresh Wind ever since.
So let's talk about that. I mean, it's really been a lot of community, again, behind you, kind of the same thing that I have going with YoFresh that we've had. It's a lot of community behind us that's kind of helped us get there.
Yes.
But how did you come up with
too.
the name Fresh Wind? Like, how did you come up?
Dion, the same friend I was looking for. We were at the house, at my house, and she come in one day, and we both was in that transition of coming out of something. So she said, I'm thinking about taking this job, or should I do my URC, United Returning Citizens? I told her, I said, do what your heart desires. What do you want? We talked about it. We started praying. Before you know it, we had a major prayer worship going on up in there. She was in another room, I was in another room, and a wind just blew through the house and the door was shut. So we like, like Jesus, fresh wind, and it was like restaurant. But I never thought of owning a restaurant because that wasn't my goal. I was just thrown in this. So sometimes God has other plans for us.
Definitely.
So I just was telling the lady that Pat gave a class with about your taxes and what is it? The accountant class.
Accounting class, right?
So I never took an accountant class. So when I talked to the lady, I said, well, listen, I've been doing everything wrong because I just got thrown into this and it just took off. And so I just been cooking, working, hustling, supporting people and just loving on folk. They've been loving on me and it's been an amazing journey. But I got to the point to where I had to get paperwork and all that type of stuff in order. I ain't had none of that down pat. So this class helped me, but she let me know that you were doing something right along the way because I had the square. I was keeping account of stuff, so I'm just learning things and still through the Oak Hill Collaborative. I'm still growing from computer classes, which I need more of, more accounting classes. But yeah, God saved me from a life of selling drugs. I probably wouldn't even be here if I was still doing what I was doing. Yeah.
Wow.
When you started, she was selling her egg rolls to bars and barbershops.
Yeah.
That was her clientele.
And hairdressers. And I told Pat, I still was a little hustling a little bit when I first got with Pat. This is the thing, though. I said, now I'm working with all these white people that love me and respect me, and I respect them too. But I could not dare be representing the Oak Hill and doing as much as I was doing in the community and turn around and get caught selling weed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was a transition, and I kept saying, God, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to transition from making this amount of money and taking care of bills and doing whatever I need to do with my kids? So I ain't going to act like it just happened overnight because it did not. No. I gradually, and the more support they gave me, the more love, the more I was able to let go. I started picking up jobs like the League of Women Voters, which Alexis is in, the Mahoney Valley. What is it? People by the Mahoney Valley River?
Friends of the Mahoney River.
So many different organizations. Listen, Tim Ryan, I just did Tim Ryan for her house, even though he wasn't able to come. I've done the senator from Hawaii, just people that I never thought. Sherrod Brown event, again, with the League of Women Voters. It's just amazing the things that God has allowed me to do. I fed Snoop Dogg, Scarface, of course, the color purple, y'all. That's
amazing.
All stars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was able to feed them because I knew I couldn't go to their play, but I said I just wanted to bless them because they calmed our city down for 5 minutes. For a couple of weeks, we didn't have all that drama.
It was an amazing show. Yeah. Such a good show.
Yeah.
I actually got to meet a lot of those gentlemen as well, actually, when I was in Teen Challenge. They were at the Calvary Church at the time. Oh, yeah. They were just the young guys at the church, and they actually came over and we did some choir stuff with them. To see them out still doing that stuff is really awesome. Let's talk about the Oak Hill Collaborative, if you don't mind, a little bit. Again, because we were just talking about earlier, somebody had a drone class. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
So you might be able to shed more light on that than.
Tell me in a minute, what did you have to do with Teen Challenge?
I actually graduated the program.
Did you? Cool.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because when I was judge, we did a lot with them.
Yeah, it was back in, I said, we've talked about it a couple of times here. That was going on 5 years ago now.
Okay.
I graduated the program.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot longer than that.
Yeah,
but
right.
Anyway.
What is that program?
Yeah.
What is this program?
It was Ohio Valley Adult and Teen Challenge. It's basically a faith-based recovery program.
Very intensive.
It was a year-long program. You live in the facility for a year. It's changed somewhat over the past couple of years and how they operate. But again, a lot of times guys will find themselves there in lieu of jail time, or again, just like me, I just kind of needed to go.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something local that actually, again, I know a few good people that are still there. It really helped me.
Awesome.
Again, without that local piece, I wouldn't be here with this and any of you guys, right? And again, that's just part of the story. Why I like to do this. But Ohio Valley Teen Challenge was definitely a piece of my story.
Fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, I have the Oak Hill Collaborative. I was doing a lot of work up at St. Patrick's Church and cleaning up Oak Hill Avenue. And that was kind of a neglected area. And, people like YNDC said, oh, we're not going to give you any money. We're not going to help you because your neighborhood's not sustainable. They actually said that to me. And which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. I mean, because you can help the richer neighborhoods within the city. but you're not going to help the ones that need it the most. And that kind of inspired me to do more. But we worked out of St. Patrick's Church, but we didn't want to do it connected with the church because they have their own ministry. So we cleaned up lots. We tore down the old Clarence Robinson Center. We bought a building that was totally abandoned down the street, down near the 507 Oak Hill, down near the county office building. We spent a couple $100,000 of our own money, no government money, no nothing, just not even financial support from foundations at first. And my partner and I put it together and cleaned up this building, hole in the roof, no windows, no electricity, no plumbing. We took it down to the concrete walls and concrete floors and fixed everything up. And now, we have 6,400 square feet, 2 floors. We have upstairs, we have offices, and United Returning Citizens is kind of our primary client. I charge them a real nominal rent after 5 years. We let them use their offices and all the utilities and computer equipment. And then we have a few other people, the Buckeye Review. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but some of your viewers might be. It's a African-American newspaper that's kind of fallen on hard times. All newspaper business has. So we let them use our offices for free. And this Kristen Olney, she's there for free. She does some work with different people, helping them.
KO Consulting.
KO Consulting is the name of her company. And she does, grant work and business advice and stuff like that.
She's amazing with it.
And then we have a lawyer there again. We're just African-American lawyer, a woman. It's nice to have people like that maybe they don't have a spot, they don't have the funds to, so it's part of that community that we're trying to do, because then they help people that come in, or they help United Returning Citizens. They'll do an expungement clinic, or they'll publicize it in the Buckeye Review, or we all kind of work together very collaboratively. But we have a big conference room and office. We've had meetings. We've had YNDC in the city of Youngstown had a planning meeting back there a few years back. Now we had 80 people in our place, that just people, I get teary eyed thinking about it. We have people walking down the streets in the neighborhood, coming to the meeting, to the public meeting. It brings a tear to your eye, really. It does, And then, but our big thing now is digital inclusion. So we do everything from, I'm on national and state committees about broadband access and kind of all the high end stuff. How do you get, infrastructure and, millions of dollars in satellites and cables and conduit and towers and all that. But that's on this end. What I really try to do is try to make cheap internet available, cheap equipment, and to teach people how to use their computers.
Access.
Yeah, so they have access. It's like a 3-legged stool. You got to have the infrastructure, you got to have the equipment, you got to have the knowledge of how to do it.
Sure.
And so one of the things we do by doing that, then we lift all boats, because then, okay, now I know how to use a computer. There's more demand. Maybe I'll pay for more. Now the company is more interested in giving you faster access, and it all works together. So we've taught a basic literacy class.
Mm-hmm.
We don't call it literacy anymore, but it's for how do you turn on the computer?
Important. These
how do you
very
turn
important.
it on? What do you
still
do?
struggle, honestly. Again, this little piece of technology, my wife, just got me into this. I guess this is Chromebook. I don't want to sound old because I'll call it the wrong name. But I'm just starting to use technology as a 43-year-old person, computer, laptop stuff. So I totally get it. So I know if I struggle with it at 40, I know there's a gap in too. I know I'm not the only one that is just now embracing technology.
My
I know
son
I'm not
can
the
do
only one.
things
Right?
that
Yeah,
I
I don't have
can't
no
do.
idea.
I'm like,
but
you're
my wife
5
could
years
build a
old.
website.
You're 5 years old. How do you know this
Where's
better
the
than I do?
power button for this?
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
literally
They're
I
all
have a hard
different too.
time.
They're not standardized, so that makes it hard too.
And we literally have charts that show that, and then we're
That's
teaching the
great.
same class in
Very
Spanish too. So we're
That's
going to
good,
have,
too.
That's
a
good,
series of
yeah.
classes at Oka and other places. But we also, so we teach these basic classes. We just taught a couple day small business accounting class, which used FreshBooks. And I said, as long as it has some sort of computer use involved, I'm with it. So my theory is that if I can get people interested in using their computers, I'm advancing the cause. I'm pushing the ball up the hill. So it goes everything. One of our best classes is we teach 4th and 5th graders how to build their own computer with a Raspberry Pi. You have a monitor, a mouse, keyboard, this Raspberry Pi. And again, it blows my mind to see 4th graders, 5th graders learning how to do binary, how to program, preliminary
Yeah,
program.
right. That's
I mean,
huge.
But
they
think about the ripple effect that can have. I mean,
Right.
you're talking about
Right.
jobs down the road,
Oh,
the
right.
economy locally being advanced. I mean, you're talking about a lot of things that you're affecting by doing that.
Right,
Because
right.
that one thing.
And when we're done, we give them the computer.
Wow.
So we got these
Right.
fifth graders are like, say, well, wait a minute, it's not my mom's cell phone. It's
Right.
it's
So
a
different.
computer with constituent parts. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, Youngstown City Council's helped us with that. You know, I mean, they've also helped us. The big thing that we're pushing right now is the emergency broadband benefit. And if you take one thing apart from what I say today, it's the emergency broadband benefit. It's for people that are financially qualified, which is 135% of the minimum income, of the poverty level income, which in Youngstown for a single person in a household is about $18,000. And then more kids or people you have, the higher that goes. Or if you're on SSI, any disability, if your kids are getting free lunch or reduced lunch, whole wide range of qualifications, but you get $50 a month off your internet. $50 a month. There's no contract, just like they say on the TV commercials. There's no obligation. You do it, and when the money runs out, then you don't get the benefit anymore. But it's your own plan, you know, however kind of plan you want, whatever provider you want, $50, they pay it, it's done. So if you have a $39 bill a month, it's free. If you have an $89 a month bill, it's going to be $39 a month. And we don't make any money, you know, from it. I mean, the city pays us to promote it. Other people have contributed for us to hire people. We don't have a commission. We just trying to get people cheaper internet.
Right.
And this is all part of the
Access.
federal
Access.
stimulus money.
Sure.
So
There's so much information again out there that I think if we don't know is out there, right? It's kind of, we talk about it all the time, Debbie, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
I'm in my mid 40s. I'm just learning stuff. I'm learning more now in my 40s than I've learned in the past 20 years of my life.
Oh,
right.
Through
Yeah.
audiobooks and
Oh,
technology,
man.
and
yeah,
just
it's
asking
like boom,
questions
it
and
blows your
networking.
mind. Yeah,
Right,
it really
every
does,
day,
literally.
every day. So,
And the
Amazing.
pandemic has showed us this how critical this stuff is. We've taught classes on telehealth, you know, very, very important.
Yeah.
But you know, people have to appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we'll do drones because we're on. You know, we have 3D
Yeah.
printers.
Right.
We have 6 3D printers in our basement, which are free.
there's all kinds of
It is
some makerspace down there.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
And again, you've been down there yourself as well, right? It's like
Yeah, I've been
business
down there
cards,
too. It's
makerspace,
amazing.
like,
Yeah.
right?
We used it for printing.
all
We've
that
used
stuff
it
is
for
Wait,
amazing.
you
everything.
could make your own business cards down there?
Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff down there.
That's
And we don't know
very
these things are out there,
Yeah.
right? How
Yeah.
many people even tune in now, like, have no idea, like, this is even there? And
Right,
it's an
that it's
option.
even there, right?
It's
Yeah.
even there, it exists, let alone in our community, right down the street. There's so much here, if we really look, that gets
Yeah, that's
overlooked. Again,
There really
the
is.
incubator,
There's a
the
lot.
Commonwealth
Yeah.
incubator,
Yeah.
the business
Yeah.
incubator.
Yes.
There's all these resources around us, but I think we get so blinded with the negative sometimes that we don't really see the good and people that are here,
Yeah.
like really trying to do good and reach out and make a
Yeah.
difference and impact.
And one of the
Yeah.
things that we have a problem with, and it may be true elsewhere, but it really seems to be a problem that I observe here in town, is that people want to be in their own silos.
Oh, that's
They
everywhere.
don't want, yeah, that is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're behind the 8 ball, as we can be so often, if we don't reach out and cooperate and collaborate, it's just not going to work. So we need to be able to say, okay, well, you're doing this, we're doing this, this work together. I just had a conversation with the Boys and Girls Club and with Oh Wow today, and both of them help the youth. They teach.
Mhm.
I said, look, I don't want to teach youth. It's not my job. It's not my lane. I don't want to take your job, your business, but I will help you. I will take my 3D printing classes and I'll take them to you, and we'll teach your
Nice.
kids.
Nice.
Super cool.
You know, I mean, and whatever you want, that's, you know, I have 2 people that work for me and a couple part-timers that help sign up the EBB, but it's 2 people. But we'll go anywhere, do anything to help other groups push the ball forward on digital inclusion. And that's what's really important.
That's super cool. Well, thanks for coming out today and sharing with
Yeah,
us. I said
Yes.
it's really a great opportunity. Again, resource.
And then we
that
have businesses too. And I mean,
Right.
I don't mean, I've moved beyond you, Trina. You got your own damn truck.
But
Right.
Yeah, but
He's
see-
throwing you out the door now. He's moving out.
Housing and everywhere. I got a couple places in the house.
yeah, but she's one of my success
Sure.
stories because she's still really is she gives back too, which
Yes.
is
She's a
important.
I
true
said
gem of
she
the
is.
city.
Yeah, she is. She's
Cute.
very involved. I said, I'm
Gem
looking
of
forward
the
to
city.
Oh,
I'm looking
Nice.
forward
for sure.
Inspiring Minds collaboration here
Sure.
shortly coming
Yeah,
up, right? I
I'm
know
ready
there's some
when you
stuff going with
are.
that. We got some stuff coming up there too. We're starting in
I'm ready when
November.
you are.
I know you're there,
I
Christina.
think
She
I'm
was
the
there
only one.
last week.
Am I the only one here from
So
out
it's
of
really
town?
good to do that as
Okay,
well.
maybe one day
Yeah,
while
that's kinda
Christina
where we
there,
roll
she's
here.
teaching
That's
how
kinda
to do
where we roll
workouts.
here.
Yeah.
Where-
So I
Where-
kind of have
For
that.
sure.
That's
That'd be
that
wonderful.
point of view.
So
See,
we
'cause
had
yeah,
Choppin,
I'm
we
from
had you come out.
Newcastle.
Sure.
I grew up in Newcastle.
Oh,
PA.
that's the same thing.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
They supposedly have
Wait a
hot
minute.
dogs.
Wait a minute. Wait a
Supposedly.
minute. When I
Talking
came
about hot
back
dogs in
10
Newcastle.
years ago,
Yeah, that's what
I
I
would
heard.
come down here to go to the clubs down here, and I would be so scared I was going to get shot. Or somebody's car was going to get stolen. Wait a minute. But then I came back. I went to school. I went Philly. I was gone. I was to school for like 10 years. And I came back and Youngstown has revived. It is
Yeah.
it is dramatically different, but Newcastle kept going down. So like Youngstown's gotten better. And like I came here and all these people took me in. They didn't know who I was. I could have been a lunatic. They just, I mean, Trina just became my friend. Kristen became my friend. There was no questions. Like that's what the community is here. Does not exist there in that same way. Like you're saying, like there's these things that people are doing that are amazing. There's
There's
so
a lot.
many
Yeah, there's a lot
amazing
of
things
there's a lot
happening.
of there's a lot of amazing things.
Yeah.
It's about supporting one another.
But
Like,
it is.
Yes, it
you
is.
see us together on Facebook 24/7. If we go, we really don't go out, but when we do go out, we're together downtown, supporting downtown businesses. You know, I wander off the Struthers, you know, to my babies down there, but for the most part, it's a collaboration. Like Julius isn't on the scene right now, but Julius helps us out with a lot of stuff, helps me out a lot of
good
stuff. Yeah, so it's
But nobody's successful on their own. I mean,
Well, that's
that's a
the
loaded
thing.
thing
Yeah,
too.
that's the
I
thing.
mean, like I tell
Mhm.
people that all the time with what I did. I mean, people are like, "Oh, you did this." I'm like, "Oh, no, I didn't." I'm like, I had my parents, my friend. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I called home to my mother and was like, "I can't do this anymore," and
Right.
she talked me down
Right.
and got me back on track. I mean, everybody needs support. Nobody
But there's-
is successful
But
without
there's
it.
places again like the Oak Hill Collaborative. There's Ohio Valley Teen Challenge. There's different places
Yes.
local because not everybody has that family. Like you said, you can lean on your parents. Not everybody has an opportunity to lean on
Oh,
their parents. There's so
yeah.
many good opportunities. Again, Boys and Girls Club you mentioned, right? There's community that's the community's here trying to do,
Yeah.
but it's again we're trying to embrace. But at the same time, it's like there's that just in between. Like nobody's really sure what to do and how to do it. And again, we just want to go grab up the kids, right, and love on the
Right.
kids. But at the same time,
If
right,
you don't have a
can't
good
just go love on
family,
the
it's hard.
kids.
It's
Right.
very
Right.
hard.
I'm still doing layer
It is
stuff off
very
myself
hard,
as I'm growing
yeah.
the community of bias and stuff like that I'm
Mhm.
shedding off. That
Mhm.
you know, it's been on my family for years that I ain't known about generational stuff.
Mhm.
But all that stuff got to be pushed aside, especially now with the generation we're at with the kids and where they're at. Like it's now, none of that stuff matters. Race, color, agenda. Like we really got to push that stuff aside and focus on really what's good for the future and not our own agendas. Because like I said, there's a lot of good stuff here in the community, but it's a lot of it's segregated. I think Derek, actually, our friend Derek McDowell made a post the other day, and we see it all the time. And again, even with Yo Fresh, you know, I think sometimes we're like, well, you're in Canfield. Well, yeah, but I'm still connected in Youngstown, like with all our kids. We feed Alta Head Start. Like I can't be more connected. That just happened to be where God blessed me with the facility,
Exactly.
where my space was.
And
Just
you know,
because
I
I'm
know.
there doesn't mean I'm not
Right.
here, right? I understand, but I grew up in Boardman, right? My friends with the Cheney, but we all still here. But it was it's same thing as you said.
all Youngstown.
Even as you said, Newcastle.
Doesn't matter,
really.
yeah.
From Newcastle to Youngstown, they're like all the way around. Like it all affects us. It's all our city. We're like, oh, I don't live there, but yeah, you do.
Yes,
it's
you
gonna
do.
affect
It
your
affects
future.
you.
It's gonna affect
Oh, yeah.
your
The
taxes,
economy, everything,
Like
yeah.
as we grow, like again, like I'm just trying to wrap my head around some of this stuff. And again, I'm not a very wise
takes
man and
time.
whatnot, but again, I'm learning the hard way. A school of hard knocks, right? I bounce around and get my head cracked a couple times, learn the hard way. That's part about being from here too, I think. A lot of us get that here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
We
think
get that
everybody
here.
does that. I don't think there's whether they say it or not.
College, you start a business, you'll bump your head. You don't know how many times I bumped my head, but I never sat down. He would tell me different things like, "Nah, don't mess with them. They're this, they're that," or he would warn me. But I'm one of the people like, "No, I gotta see for myself, Pat." And I get smacked around. I'm back, like,
You got to learn it for yourself.
More
You
than
have to learn it for
Right.
yourself.
Right. It's like 3 times.
Everybody's got to do it the hard way.
It's okay
Yeah.
though. I learned from
Yeah.
my mistakes, but
We
Pat,
bounce back.
anything that I do, he'll drill me. He'll get me in that office and be like, "Well, did you do this? Well,
That's
what about
awesome.
this for the investment?" You know what I'm saying? I call
Well,
him
you need
KK.
that.
He like, "Yeah, I need that."
We all
Even when
need
I be mad.
accountability, right? Like we all need accountability.
Even when
Like,
I be mad, I still listen because so far in this business world, the things that him and Chris told me, I bumped my head. I had to go back and say, okay, you were right. But it's still, I got to go through my own college. I graduated. Now I know not to do that no more.
He functions like a parent would to you, like a mentor.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's
what
essentially, and
important.
that's what we need
That's
for
what we
people
need,
who don't
mentor.
have that in their life or don't know something.
Just this
Yeah.
past year, again, I've actually went outside of my comfort zone, and that's partly how I've gotten to this point. Is because of my mentors. My friend Simon Aries, I give him a shout out. That's what even kind of put me in the idea. That's why I met Simon. Was even a podcast. That's how I even met him. And I sent him a little email on Facebook, like, "Hey, bro, I appreciate you."
I remember.
Right? I think we talked about it.
And then you
And then I went and I met him. He actually had me out to his office and met him.
We follow
Right, so-
each other.
Right. So again, like, that mentor,
She's
seeking out a
creeping on your
mentor,
Facebook.
actually got me here to even where I can even do this, because without having that mentor to talk in my ear a little bit, even then, to even just chat with me, to inspire me and give me a little bit of push, a little bit of motivation, and see something in me that I didn't see yet, I wouldn't even be doing this. But we all need those mentors, and especially again, Julius. I don't know if that mic's probably not on, but we could have you slide over here if you whatever. But maybe even next time, maybe a little big surprise. But you've been in the community, bro. Like you do big things.
And listen, speaking of Simon
Big
Aries,
things.
Simon is connected to Derek Toes.
Correct.
So
Inspiring
I
minds.
went on a show with Malia Spiva, and it was some other Black business entrepreneurs. That was doing
Remember,
a
y'all
pandemic.
got the award for that.
Right, and Derek, I was with
remember
Derek. I told Derek, I said, I always dreamt about cooking for your kids.
You what?
And so he said, really? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, give me your number. We'll be in touch with you. I think Derek called me maybe a week and a half after that show. I've been with them ever since.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm able to
support.
cook for the kids, and it just blows my mind just how the blessings come out and you connect to people, because Derek and they supported me on this journey too with the food truck.
Yeah.
Like it just people from out of town, businesses I don't even know, people I don't know. And Julius kept saying, "You gonna get it, you gonna get it. Don't worry about it." We was just out eating the other night. I was like, I'm still nervous because I had to make it to that 20,000.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah, to assure anything,
yeah,
right?
such a big
you
deal.
lost it all, right?
I would have lost
You
it
could have
all.
got 19,999 if you didn't get that other dollar. They'd have just said like, no.
Oh well, we'd have gotten that dollar.
For sure. But just saying, like it was that like kind of thing. Hey, can you tell us more about that? Was honeycomb? Can you talk
That's
about that?
honeycomb
I've never heard about it.
I never heard of it either. It's really
So
cool.
instead
It's
of
really
going
cool.
through the banks, which the bank probably charge 8% interest, they charge 12%, but it's a 60-month payback for, if I make it up to $50,000. And the investment, if you put money in, you get an investment back. It's not a donation.
Right.
People aren't giving me money, even though there were some people that said, no, I don't want to, go through this or go through this link and put my information in there. I'd rather just give you money. So, and I just took the money and I just pushed it towards myself.
Sure.
Right. And then some people say, well, I just want to invest in you. So when I have this benefit at the federal, then I'll use that money towards that. But my journey isn't over. I just didn't tell anybody that they would give the money back. Because sometimes in our city is so much negativity. I didn't want nobody preying on my downfall. So I wasn't going to tell nobody, okay, y'all,
There's
if I don't
always
make
somebody.
this 20,000, I just let it be organic and I let God do what he do.
That's a beautiful
When
part
is
of
that
it.
fundraiser that you have?
We were thinking about the 21st, but we're probably going to push it back
Okay.
a little bit, give me more time, because I got so many events. Like I got what's that event we're going to this weekend?
Maple Turner.
We were going to Maple Turner, and then Dan Martini and Jacob
Stole
was
my
like,
dates.
You know what?
What's up with
we
that?
don't want to cook. They want theirs. They want something elegant. We want you. So those are my friends. When I tell you them, Julius, anything I do, they're there. Pat, all of them, all my friends, they're there. They're coming, and likewise, I'm running for them.
It's great
So,
to see
yeah.
community.
Well, and it's a good investment too.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't like talk that up. I mean, like when I looked at it, it's doing better than you might in like the stock market or with bonds or things right now. So people, that's why they're giving. It's not out of the kindness of their heart if they don't know you. It's because it's a good investment.
Yeah, you know that.
I looked up stuff.
Oh,
like
she
that.
is, but I'm saying, but she's
That's
getting
what-
things from people who
He
don't
talked
even
to
know
Scott,
her.
tomorrow
But,
me and
I
him,
mean,
we
like
making
out
a
of
video
nowhere.
tomorrow with our Oak Hill shirts on, so I'm just putting him on the spot right now.
I'm just saying that random dude who you don't even know who he is. He's not investing
Right.
because he know. You know what I mean?
Right,
like he
right.
obviously is getting
No,
something
something,
out
right,
of
knows
it,
you
right?
I seen this one guy
Just
put
did.
in 1,000 and then he put in another 500. I was like,
I mean, yeah, this guy's like not. He's in
Right.
Pittsburgh.
Right.
You know?
businesses that I don't even
Yeah.
know. When they see that video on Honeycomb, so now that I've reached this point, the investors start coming from other places that don't even know me.
Right.
The Honeycomb.
So you might have a
investors pick
fleet
up.
here by the end of the year. You might have a fleet of trucks.
That'd be
We're
awesome.
gonna be pulling up
That's
with
how you roll up
something.
with a
I'm
couple
letting everybody
fleets, right?
sign their name that was an
Yeah,
investor.
there you go.
So I know Pat gonna want to sign his green marker.
Right. So
So
Oak
say
Hill
Pat's.
Collaborative got a lot going on with good too. What about you, Joyce? What's going on in your world? You got anything exciting new going on? I said we know you're out there grinding away.
And before let me just say, we're kind of informal here, and we are friends, and that's one of the beauty things about Julius. I mean, personally, he is out there with people, and he's blessed because his warts in the first warts were all downtown together too. But he's also a good guy, a cool guy, and we more than most, we see him and he interacts with people. And I mean, that's a really important part of the collaboration because he knows what she's doing and what I'm doing, and he helps us when he can. And so those are all very important parts of, we don't normally get that from our public officials. Cool. I know when I was a judge, I was the only judge that ever went out and went to anything. And I'm still kind of that way. I mean,
hit the bars.
But I hit the bars, but I hit the churches.
Doctors aren't much different.
Yeah, but but that was so key. How am I going to know what I'm doing if I don't meet people?
How you touch the city if you don't touch the city?
Same view. But go on.
That's really important too, because when I first got into politics, Pat was kind of one of the first people I bumped into, and just to be totally transparent, I didn't like him.
Are you serious?
And it's because when I first got into politics, it was like people expected me to do certain things, and it was kind of like it wasn't I'm not asking you, I'm not, it's kind of just like, you're in politics now, this is what you're supposed to do. And when I got into politics, I got into it with the mentality of, I'm a regular guy from the neighborhood, right? And I'm not a politician, so it ain't gonna be no I wash your hands, you wash my hands type thing. If it's supposed to be done and is for a good reason and it's gonna help people, I'm all for it. But it took time for me to actually get to know Pat, in the Oak Hill collaborative, through people like Trina, people like Dion, you know what I mean? Just seeing what was going on up there with the, raspberry pies and everything like that, and going through there and seeing like, oh, okay, so this is really a place. Long story short, as a new politician, it took me some time to figure out who was really real and who was really just, because there's a lot of people in Youngstown that pose as they're doing something beneficial for Youngstown, but really it's just for themselves. Poverty is a moneymaker. A lot of people don't realize it, but you make a lot of money off poverty. There's a lot of people getting rich off Youngstown and it's poverty.
Drug rehab, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a
lot of times
wages.
There's a lot of things.
They don't want you to be. They don't want anybody in the fold that could point it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
then you're going to take their power.
Right. You know what I mean?
So
or
you're
you're going to
challenging
expose them to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole deck of cards kind of falls down. So after getting to know Pat, getting to know, his organization and everything, it was like, okay, yeah, he cool. You know what I mean? I could trust him. I could deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
But it took some time, and it took some time to kind of weed through all of these things in politics in Youngstown, because it's been such a corrupt system for such a long time. There's a lot of people in a lot of different places right now in Youngstown that really need to be removed. They really need to go away. And in order for those ones that really have the heart for Youngstown and really want to do some things to be able to come up and set this city right. But I think it's a lot of, people that are miseducated or maybe ignorant on some things. And you could be the biggest crook in the world and you'll be touted as a hero in Youngstown. You could be the guy on the ground that's really trying to make some stuff happen and you the biggest hater in the world. You know what I mean? It's weird how the mentality is here. So my job basically at this point is really to change the narrative, change the way we think, change the way we think about each other, change the way we view Youngstown, and kind of keep pushing forward for the next generation so they can come up learning and knowing something different to affect their city in a positive way.
Exactly. That's really good. So that's kind of, again, eat good, feel good, do good. I think that's my catchphrase, but I think everyone sitting on the panel kind of could buy into that. Like, that's part of really like the goal of getting to the next level. What we're trying to do, it all kind of, it comes like, again, mind, body, spirit. Like, we need to get back to that stuff. Like, it's important. We don't talk about it in schools, and we can't talk about this in school, and we can't talk about that in school. And, that's all minimum budget stuff for schools, right? Again, we're dealing with all the Head Start. We're feeding the kids. We got into this because there was I knew that there was a state minimum. And that's what these companies were providing for our children to eat every day was just enough. And it didn't sit. I didn't like it. I thought this is not right.
Why do you think we're in the predicament we are in now with the pandemic and everything? It's because of lack of science education. I mean, this is most is there's got to be some kind of change. Right. You can see how people just don't understand a lot of these things that you try to talk to them about. So that has to start very young. I mean, you got to bring that in way early and start talking about how research methods, how to evaluate sources of information. I mean, these are
Yeah.
things that we were taught, I mean, just bashed into my head. And you can tell people cannot, they don't know how to do that. They just don't. I mean, and it's not their fault. It was
Like we
nothing
said,
that was
if
brought
we don't
up.
know, we don't know. Again, I
Yes.
can't. My parents were great parents, but again, looking back, the things that they taught were from their grandparents and generations. So if it's
And what
not
they
known, it's
do,
not
yeah.
known. Like we talk about generational curses,
Mhm.
right? So again, I feel I've been able to break some of that stuff off of
Mhm.
my family a little bit. But again, if we don't know, we don't know, right? If I'm struggling as a young man with this, that, and the other, my homeboys are too, right? And we don't know, but nobody's telling us.
Mhm.
We don't know that the Oak Hill's down there, that me and my dude can go run down and print some business cards maybe
Mhm,
and,
yeah.
get put on. And
You only
we
know
didn't
your
Youngstown
experiences.
Studios was here,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That I could come down with my homeboys, lay a track down and pay some money and start something. We don't know that these resources are out there.
Why do you think I do what I do? It's because like in months like these and throughout the year, I'm trying to get people to walk in the door because I cannot walk you in. I can save your life, but you got to walk in the door.
Yeah.
You
Let's talk
got
about
to
that. That's
take
this
that
month, right?
step and you got to know that you got to go see your doctor and you get a prescription, you come see me and then I can save your life, but I cannot hold your hand and physically walk you in the door.
Mhm.
And so you've got to tell people what they need to know that, like you said, they might not have any idea. Maybe they
Yeah.
didn't have a parent who told them these things. Maybe it wasn't around when their parent was younger. A lot
Right.
of this
A lot of
stuff didn't
stuff I didn't know,
exist
right? Our
back
parents
then.
didn't know.
It's kind of like that on
You
every
know?
level too. Even if you look at racism, a lot of people that I used to think was racist actually aren't racist. They
Mhm.
just don't have certain experiences.
Yeah.
So the absence of those experiences makes
Mm.
them miss out on certain knowledge that would cause you to react or interact with a certain person a certain way. You know what I mean? So this job may not be racist, and that's why they're not hiring people of color. It may just be there's a inter circle that's just like, well, I hired Johnny's cousin, or I
Mhm.
hired my nephew's buddy, or you know what I mean. So they're not even thinking. It's kind of like the Butler art thing. You know what I mean? I caught a bunch of flack for basically saying we need to have some diversity in these paintings you put in downtown, because Youngstown is basically 50-50.
Diverse,
You know what I
right.
mean? So let's get some black artists in here. And I caught so much flack, radio, shows and all kind of stuff in Youngstown. It was the paper, the news, and it was like, all I'm saying is, when they put this art project together, they just didn't think at all. It never even entered their mind.
Right.
Mhm.
Maybe we should include some African Americans or some Asians or some Indians or some people of color into
Color, in
this
general,
art project.
color.
So it wasn't that they was being racist. It was that it just
If you
didn't
don't know,
What
think-
I
you
hear
don't
a
know.
lot is it's just always the way we've done it.
Yeah.
And you're
That
like,
too.
well, that's great, but it's
That
been
also-
50
yeah,
years.
and that also, that
like
also
maybe it's
implies
changed.
that lack of knowledge, that ignorance, because this is the way you've always done it. You negated this whole other piece of information
Yes.
that could
Mhm.
improve.
You just
this.
assume that it's the right way, right?
Exactly.
Until
Yeah.
you find out otherwise that
Yeah.
it's not the right way.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've
really
done all that
just,
too.
It really just takes. I think Youngstown will become a community again. Number one, when you restore the family,
Mhm.
because
That's important.
communities
Structure,
are
family
based on
structure.
families. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And number two, when everybody gets to know each other. You know what I mean? Let's just imagine if we had a real family and friends day. At the Cavelli Center or the amphitheater or something, and Austin Town is there, Poland is there, Canfield, and everybody in Youngstown is there. And it's like, okay, how do I get to know my neighbors? How do I get to know the people around me? And then you get to find out that everybody is really wants the same thing.
Right.
Okay,
You know what I
now
think
we
of
can
that
start
as?
working together.
Panerathon. Every
Yeah.
time I go to
Events like that,
Panerathon,
yeah.
that's one of the things that really inspires me about Youngstown is that I've never been anywhere where that many people come out to support something like that.
Mhm.
Like they had like 11,000 people the last time it was full size. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's just amazing. I mean, other places I've been where there are breast centers, people don't come out like that.
And that's just one common thing.
Yes.
It's just the love of running or participating in that type of activity,
Mhm.
but then it spills out into all different things. You get all kind of different organizations, all kind of different
Mhm.
people all coming together for that common
Well,
thing.
and so many people have been affected by breast cancer.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Everybody can probably name somebody they know who's
Yeah.
had it. So
Right.
it's something that can bring the common,
Mhm.
everybody together. Doesn't matter
Mhm.
your color, your gender, your whatever,
And it all goes towards solving
Yes.
this problem,
Yes.
or getting
Yes.
or
I was
getting
gonna say,
people to think about this situation.
Yes.
You know,
Right. That's
Yeah.
what we say. Are we all? Because you said everybody's related to somebody with breast cancer. Well, we all related to the
Yes.
problems with Youngstown too, though.
Yes.
Right. That's
yes.
what gets.
But you have to highlight
Just
that.
being able to come
Because
together.
again, people don't think about it otherwise.
Right.
Panerathon didn't exist before. Why does Joni Abdu exist? Joni Abdu had to pass away.
Sure.
Joni Abdu was a beloved nurse up in that hospital who did not have coordinated care like there is now there. And because of that, in part, she also had an aggressive cancer, but she passed away. And that's what changed everything. Sometimes we become too reactive instead of proactive. You know what I mean? Like we don't go at problems we know are there.
Yeah.
We wait till something really bad happens,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Sometimes
it's kind of the human way.
Yeah. Again, wait till it's fix that little leak with duct tape, right? And
Yeah,
right.
right.
It's a bigger crack, and then the foundation's
Right.
weak. I totally get it, but I said I think the foundation is here. In our city, I like to think that there is a revival, both spiritually and in the physical that's going to take place here in our town. Again, I shared last week John 3:30. The Bible verse says, that we must decrease so God can increase. And if you look at our city, like I said, God's not a wasteful God. If you look at our city, the number 330 is the reason, and you can see that in our city that there was an increase of God and there was a decrease. And now it's going to swing the other way, but it's because of conversations like this and people like us and platforms like this that can kind of maybe push that into sooner than later. Right. You know what I mean? Because again, there's a lot of conversations that aren't talked about. Addiction, depression, stuff I deal with. Guy depression. I deal with it now, still today. I had a mistake this week. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I actually took the wrong medication since Friday. I haven't had my antidepressants since Friday. I've been taking something else.
That's a no-no,
So I feel really gross and disgusting. Like my skin's crawling right now, and it's bad. But it's the stuff I deal with.
I've had anxiety since I was young.
So this is really awkward for me right now to even be here. I want to call y'all.
I can sense your anxiety. I
feel
it when I walk into a room.
I did. I want to call y'all and cancel, but that's
I'm so excited you deserve to be happy.
There's things to be said to get out. That's why I see you last week. That's why I see you last week. We went down and had a burger afterwards.
I'll tell you what, I can't go without my medicine like that too. I don't know how you're holding it together.
I mean, again, by the grace of God, like I said, because it's a little icky right now. You can see.
Imagine how many people out there that you deal with on a daily basis that are going through
Right.
I see so much undiagnosed mental illness. It is unbelievable.
That's this month too, right? So
because I sense it the second I walk into a room with somebody. It's bad.
It's important, especially in the city.
It's to the point now. And I'm not trying to be funny with this, but there's so much mental illness out there that is looked upon as normal to other people.
Yes, and it isn't.
Sometimes it makes me question myself. I'm like, am I the normal one?
That's why you're hearing me say that you need to go to your doctor, not just go get a mammogram, because you need to go see somebody and talk to somebody. You can see a therapist. That's good too.
Let me share a moment with you about mental illness. I was undiagnosed bipolar manic depressive when I was a judge. I had the best psychiatrists in town. You name them, I had them, 4 or 5 of them. They mistreated me. They treated me for depression. Wrong medicine, did not help. I ended up getting in an accident. And it went away. And I ended up going to prison. But the activities that I did happened while I was misdiagnosed. I get in this accident. I'm thinking, and I'm an alcoholic or something. I don't know why this happened. I kind of weaned myself off. I still never got it straight. 5 years later, 5 years after that happened, I ended up going to prison in the federal system. Doctor walked in and said, "You're not depressed. You're bipolar." Put me on medication in 1998. I'm on the same medication today, and it works like a charm. Mm-hmm. And he saved my life. I mean, because I was top of the world, man. I was the judge. Everybody knew me. I was going to be on the Supreme Court, but I've been crazy. Literally, I'd have been out of my mind because I wasn't able to handle it, and little things would get to me.
Our prisons have become like that, though.
Yeah,
that's a whole other discussion. We don't have mental health facilities anymore. Right. So our prisons have become saturated with people who are mentally ill and should be in some kind of facility like they used to have, but they've closed. There's no money to be made in that. Yeah. And so where do they go?
But that's what I tried to tell the judge, but he didn't want to hear it. You know?
They don't have that. But they don't have that training.
I just interviewed Glorious Griffin Counseling Services. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, over in Boardman. And one of the last messages I asked each of the therapists in the interview, I said, if you have a burning message, what would it be? And one of them said, don't discount the COVID stress fallout. She said, people who are going through that, and a lot of them won't even turn to ask for help because it's just a part of life. Mm-hmm. She said, but this is so serious because people's actions and their mental health is being affected by the fallout. of this whole national pandemic or
Being scared for your life.
worldwide
Yeah,
Being
right.
scared for your
In
life
general,
Yeah,
on a
and
daily
they-
basis.
I just want to give them a shout out
Mhm.
because they're very about the person. They don't try to fit people into a system or a class. They literally are all about the individual, and they have a variety of things and classes and programs to actually tailor towards each individual. So I just want to give them a shout out since we're talking about this.
Mhm.
And it's the
It's a big
people, they
deal.
see the person that literally doesn't look like they're stressed out. It
Mhm.
doesn't look that if they don't get help and they don't sit and talk to somebody, it could turn into something that it doesn't need to be if they just sit and talk to somebody.
It
You know
sounds
what I
like
mean?
you're talking
That
about
was-
me about 2 years ago.
That was basically
I
the
was doing
process.
that.
She's
Like,
sitting here like
3 weeks ago
she's
when
repeating what
my
I'm
family and I had COVID, it was like during the time we had COVID, and it's me, my wife, and my baby. We sent our daughter, to stay with her grandma during this time. So for 2 weeks, we locked in the house, and I can't go to work. You know what I mean? I'm an entrepreneur, so if I ain't working, like you asked her when she called me, I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm working.
Mm.
Because I'm like going 90 miles a minute. And during that time, that 2 weeks, it really first it stressed me out because I couldn't help my 4-month-old baby. It was like he got COVID. Like it's the most
he's
stressful
helpless.
thing in the world. It's like to have a helpless little baby that's like looking at you like, daddy, like, please help me. You can't do nothing. On top of that, the stress of losing money from work, not being at work, you know what I mean? And then just like having the time to just totally think like, you know what, I could die.
He was bad.
I could die. I could just like die tomorrow or something from this, or my wife got to rush me to the clinic to, put me on a ventilator or some stuff. During that time, it really made me rethink a lot of stuff. Like, I started listening to Charlamagne the God's book. It's called Shook
I like
Ones.
him.
And it really, that mental health piece is so important because it realized during this time, I realized, number one, I started realizing who were my friends and who really weren't my friends. Like who was checking on me during this time, who wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I started thinking about stuff like, man, is this cat my friend? I ain't never been over this dude's house, like ever. You know what I mean? He been to my house, but I ain't never been to his house. I'm like, I don't think that cat is my friend. I'm going through this lesson, and I realized like I got something called a father wound, which I never knew about before, but my masculinity and how I'm ready to go at somebody any second for any little, be it in politics or whatever, it's like at any given time, if you push me far enough, I'm ready to knock your head off. And that comes from literally my father womb. It's like, me and my dad never had a good relationship.
That needs talked about.
Never
Right.
had, you know what I mean? But I was always angry because I didn't have this. I mean, I had a father that lived in the house with me, that didn't like me, that didn't deal with me. And it just made me mad. So I just went out and did like crazy stuff all the time, basically trying to get his attention.
Sure.
And I think about what the violence that's going on in our city right now. And I'm thinking about how many other young men got that father womb like I got. They just like, they fighting for something, but they don't even know what they're fighting
They
for.
just
I
angry,
guarantee
don't know
like
why.
95% of it is mental health based.
But it's an absence of love, like wanting to feel
Identity.
that love, that
Identity.
that never knowing what you're supposed to do. Like when is the time you're supposed to cry? When is you not supposed to cry?
Right.
Like, do I fight this dude? Do I leave? You know what I mean?
What
that
they're
father
finding
wound
in
is
the
major.
research now, and the most amazing thing, I could have been a psychiatrist. I love this stuff. But anyway, so I could go on and on about it. But what they're finding now is that everything is based out of your childhood. So any kind of trauma that you had in your childhood, if you have a problem with your father, you have a problem with your mother, you were abused, whatever it is, that affects you for the rest of your life. It colors everything that you do. And the more things that happen to you, the more likely you are a drug addict, the more likely you are an alcoholic, the more likely you are to be sexually promiscuous. I mean, just you could go down the list of things. They can literally, they do a childhood trauma score, and they take it and they look at like people who are addicted and things, and they're finding that they're very high.
This is the
So that's what they
importance
know.
of that conversation right there. This is the importance because they actually did a study. They asked men, when did you first feel like a man? And they got a variety of answers. When I graduated, when I got my first car, when I got my first job, when I had my first partner, when I got married, all kinds of answers. And what it came down to in the psychological studies, which I love as well, is that a boy gets his identity when his dad looks in his eyes. So if the dad refuses to look the boy in his eyes, if he refuses to have that connection,
Yeah.
that boy goes on through life without an identity. He doesn't know who he is. And so you have to get that from somebody else. And you have all these boys who literally are going out knowing they want the approval of another man, and they don't even know what that means. They don't know. So then it could come out in gangs. It could come out in
Colors your
so
entire
many
life,
different things.
right?
Yes.
Right.
It's that
Right.
early connection.
But you
that they're
have
finding.
that
Yeah.
father wounds.
Yeah.
That's where they're supposed to get their identity. It's not even like, okay, it's just another wound. That is the wound.
Yeah.
That
I know.
is
I
the
remember.
wound.
I know my dad he connected in just certain ways. It was either cars or women. My dad always kept a bunch of nice cars, clean cars, classic cars. And even though he was married to my mom, he always had a plethora of women. So that's how I used to try to get my dad's attention. It was either the cars I had, and I always had a minimum of 6. And it was
6
the
cars.
women.
I know.
And it was-
Wow.
And I used to parade women in front of my dad just to be able to see him say, "Oh, she bad." And I used to be like, "Oh, yeah." So that was the only time I felt like I was getting the approval from my father. And that's really what jacked me up in a lot of relationship situations, to the point where even when I went to get married, it was like, babe, like, I never been faithful before. Like you really gotta, like, I don't really know how this work. You know what I mean? So I'm still learning how to be a husband 2 years into marriage, because in my mind it was like, well, my mom was she was there the whole time, like, and it didn't affect the family until they like divorced and everything. So I'm thinking relationships and marriage and all that is a whole different concept that really was, because I was always trying to.
That's your
This
first
is you
example.
Yeah,
That's your first example, right?
exactly.
Something
That's your
about
role
too,
model
do you-
for a relationship.
I know, again, like I've just been able to past couple of weeks, again, I'm dealing off some of my stuff again, and somebody made some of the fact, like, why do I cook and my why, but part of it is too, it's seeking approval.
Mhm.
But you mentioned your dad had classic cars. Do you think there's a tie to where you're at with your business, right? Do you think that's what drove you in the
Absolutely.
beginning, like to keep your whips nice and clean?
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're trying to get approval from
It
your
is.
mom kind of deal?
The crazy part is my dad wouldn't let me wash his cars.
That's what
And his mom wouldn't let me wash her cars. So it was like, I can wash cars. Like, I wash cars
I'll
with
show
the best
you.
of them. And
Right.
And I always would try. And they just would not. My grandmother had this, like, I don't know, 80-something Chevy Caprice, kept it super clean. And I used to try to wash it, and she'd be like, "Boy, you don't know how to wash no car." So the only person that would let me wash the car was my Uncle Sherman. And he actually showed me how to wash the car. And him and my dad was best friends. They was like in this competition. They would literally have the same exact cars, Camaros, Cadillacs, until one day he went and bought a Lincoln, and my dad bought a new Cadillac, and it was like, a Lincoln? Like, how you buy Cadillac, people, But yeah, I'm 100% sure that my dealings with cars today came from that experience of trying to get my father's approval all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
That
a
totally
good
makes
side.
sense.
Perfectionist.
Yeah.
Perfectionist.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From my
right.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that from
Sure.
them. Yeah.
Well, you
Everybody's got
become
their
a
baggage.
perfectionist by never being good enough as well. So
That's where I ran into a problem.
Yeah. So
Because I'm
once you-
human, right?
once you
Right.
reach
For
your
sure.
point of
For sure.
like, I'm
It's hard.
the authority at this, I'm good at this, you still got that, but you ain't good enough for
I
your
hate-
dad.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
No,
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that's why I want to have this show, to chop it up with people, because we all deal with these things on different levels.
Oh yeah.
Again, you brought out some stuff earlier that I would have
Yeah.
had no idea, right? And
Right.
again, Trina, you mentioned some of your past. Like we all are human. We all have the same blood. We all live in the same place, and we're all connected. But we're all so different and busy all the time that we don't take time to chop it up with people and get to know and really understand. Like again, we're all connected in this city. We're all connected in this life together through the same stuff.
Mhm.
Just skin color, sex, male, female, whatever. Like we all have the same issues, drama, childhood problems,
Mhm.
adult problems, problem with our kids, our family. We all have them same problems, but nobody feels like we do, right? We all feel like we carry the burden alone.
Social
even
media
speaking
doesn't help.
No, I said
Everything
that's
looks perfect,
highlights,
right?
right? That's just
I'm reading a
highlights.
book about social
That's
media
just
right
highlights.
now.
I don't hide on social media. When I go through my ups or downs or woos or woes, I'm transparent.
part of
You know,
it.
I have to
ain't
stay
hiding
off
from
it
God. I ain't
sometimes.
gonna hide from
Mhm.
y'all.
I have to
That's
because
right,
I
just
get very
compare.
like, I'm like, oh,
Everybody's on vacation but me. Everybody's having a great dinner but me.
I can't
Everybody's
do
doing
all
something
this
but me.
stuff. I'm not a good mother. I
Yeah,
can't do
sure.
all
You
these
know what?
crafts.
They say
and,
social media makes you more depressed than anything.
Sure.
Instagram is the number one.
Yeah.
I just heard that.
Yeah.
Instagram is the number
Well,
one.
I get
Like I
on there,
said,
do
turn
my
that
business
stuff off,
and jump
right?
off.
Turn
Some
that
days
stuff
I get
off.
on there and see a message or somebody says, now y'all know y'all got some friends or whoever might say something totally off the hook. Or you be like, really? You really put this on here? And you just look at that person totally different. I've seen some things.
See, I've just realized I can't see inside some people's heads.
Mhm.
Like I'm not
Mhm.
meant to. Like if I'm gonna like
Mhm.
you, like I go to St. John's Episcopal Church up the hill here. Gail Catanella. Gail, I love you. Shout out to her.
I love you,
Pastor
If she's
Gail.
watching, she's amazing. But she was preaching about this the other day about how you just always have to, you're always trying to be nice to other people. You're always trying to see the best in them. And some people I cannot see in their mind and then see them in a good way.
Mhm.
And that's just
But
real
that's-
life.
that's
I mean,
real
that's
life.
being human. You know
No,
what I mean?
but
If
it's-
you're
it's-
that
but it-
different from me, it's hard for me to see into your head.
But that's I think that's part of the problem where we really have to just, as people, like get past that point of
Mhm.
knowing that there's something in there that's deeper than what I can see, and
Mhm.
that's the acceptance piece where we need to draw each to
When
like
we
with
used to
each
just
other.
see
and
each other
connect.
in person, it wasn't that big of a deal. You didn't talk about these things with people.
Right.
You know what I mean? You didn't get into these deep. I didn't know what people were politically back then. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I look
you
at my
still
friends now. I'm
shouldn't.
like,
You still should.
And
yeah,
people
you
aren't
know what I
You
mean?
go back
But
to
you
that stuff,
do,
right?
though. You
But
know this
again,
stuff.
they aren't commenting on
Yeah,
things that you know. Yeah.
You didn't
I
know
think
this stuff
you know
about
what.
people.
we don't need to know
Here's-
everything from everybody.
I think God is a master florist. And I feel like sometimes he's up there and he says, you know what? I think this arrangement of people is going to look amazing. And we're all like, what? No, ew, no, They don't think like I do. They don't look
Yeah.
like I do. They don't, whatever, act like I do. But the arrangement is for a specific occasion.
Mhm.
It's for a specific, and then you
A
go to
time like
Holland
this.
and you see all tulips, and it wouldn't be the same if you just see the tulip fields if they were other flowers. If they were like, oh, we got to put other flowers. No, it looks beautiful. It's just all tulips or all roses, a bouquet of roses. There's a power in a bouquet of roses because it's different, right? But then other times you got these splendid, amazing groups. And I feel like that's what we have to get down to. I might not agree with you, and I might 100%. I just can't see why you think the way you think, and you
Mhm.
can't see the way I think.
Doesn't
But
matter.
guess what? We're in this bouquet
That's it.
together,
That's
and
it.
it's for an occasion, and it's for a reason, and there's a beauty, and we just have to trust that.
That's it.
Guess what? We're beautiful together in
Mhm.
this moment. It doesn't mean that we're going to be always this
You don't have to be best
collaboration.
friends with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
just trusting that there's good in this person and their life. I think it was you that mentioned their life experiences doesn't bring them to that point to make that decision, and that's okay. You know what I mean?
I think everything that divides us was created to divide us.
Mhm.
I don't really. I think if you was to just, if when none of us ever met each other, and they just threw us into a room and we had to solve a problem, I'm sure we could solve that problem without getting into our differences and all this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just people being people. You know what I mean? And I say that because I had a different understanding of Jewish people before I went to Israel. So when I went to Israel and I met all these people and I get to talking to these people and I don't even speak the language, but the kids is running around doing kid stuff and I don't speak English, but I could tell what they talking about. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't speak, Hebrew or Yiddish, but I could tell what they talking about because there's a universal human language. You know what I mean? You could tell these kids was being mischievous and chasing each other around and
Right.
stuff like that. You like, I know what y'all about to do.
Y'all
You
get
know
into
what I
trouble,
mean?
right?
You're right. And it's a whole nother culture because we're all at the end of the
Same.
day the same. And it's like, we got to stop paying attention to those things that were intentionally put into our lives to divide us as a human race. You know what I mean? It's like we got to stop paying attention to race. You know what I mean? We got to stop paying attention. Even the whole vax and unvaccinated thing. It's like there's an intentional divide that's been created there. And it's like,
I agree.
okay, I mean, you vaccinated, you unvaccinated. Okay, once you get around to, getting enough understanding and education and to make the proper choice for you, I don't got nothing to say about you until
Right.
that. You know what I
So
mean?
you.
Like, this person was okay with it. This person is not. Like, y'all shouldn't kill each other over this or be out picketing and stuff like that.
Just act accordingly.
Yeah.
I do a
If
lot
you
of
haven't been
education.
vaccinated,
Yeah. I mean,
you haven't
people,
been
there was a woman who
vaccinated?
told me the other day, completely, like, really was like, she believed she was being microchipped. she would be microchipped. I mean, now she doesn't anymore.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of bad information going around, and
Yeah.
people aren't there yet. You know,
Follow the science.
That's it.
it's hard. It's hard. I
Right.
think right now, as physicians, we're in a hard place. I mean,
Yeah,
because this
yeah,
is
yeah.
really the first time I can ever remember where we're like going at something, and people are just like,
Resisting.
we don't believe
right.
you.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's why
You're an
I
idiot,
I
and
gotta
you don't know
tell
what you're
my
talking
wife
about.
a lot of times
Yeah.
you gotta use your academia side and you gotta use your common sense and people side as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when she's dealing with, you know, patients or whatever, I always tell her it's like, as a Bible believer, when you're dealing with all this stuff with the pandemic and the vaccines and everything, you really got to be on a different level because the scripture is telling you what's happening right now. And you kind of got to go into like, well, according to scripture, it's going to get a lot worse. So let's just take this as a lesson learned and keep it pushing,
Right.
keep the faith and everything. Because like, I tell my wife, like as a Bible believer, this is leading to something. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this is that, but it's definitely leading somewhere. Something is happening right now and it's shifting the entire planet.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I
Well,
have to
We're
I
gonna
had
have to cut
come
you guys
that
short
too,
though. We're
sorry.
getting to the last very minute here, so I don't want to just have to cut off, but I don't want to go over our time
my
either.
God.
All right.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
but I just want to say
I'll
thanks for
tell you
everybody
about
for
it
coming out.
tomorrow.
We could actually chop it up again. Thanks to everybody for coming out. Thanks to our sponsors. It was just again a great show. We got a lot of good information. Got to talk about a lot about our city and a lot of good things, a lot of good people. And
Yeah.
more importantly, we talked about some faith and some struggles. So keep that all in mind. Until next week, guys, we'll chop it up again. We'll see you soon. Keep it fresh.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content.